Part 1. I woke from my slumber to a ghastly sight. My door was open and masked figures stood in the doorway, beckoning me with outstretched hands to come to them. My heart raced with fear as I wondered who these figures could be, and what their intentions were. Were they here to harm me? I could hear the sound of rain and wind gushing outside my house. I knew I had to escape. I had to run as fast as I could from these spooky figures. I frantically tried to close the door, but they were already inside my room. With no other escape route in sight, I smashed open my window and ran like the wind. As I sprinted through the rain, I could hear them yelling. But I couldn't hear what they were saying. They pursued me with their outstretched hands, their intentions still unknown. My heart thumped in my chest as I stumbled and fell. But I quickly got back up and continued to run. My only goal was to get away from these ghoulish figures. I ran faster and faster, my adrenaline pumping as I pushed myself to my limits. But no matter how fast I ran, they were still gaining on me. I searched frantically to find someone, but the streets were eerily empty. It must be the rain, I said to myself. I reached the banks of the river that run through the middle of our town. The current was strong and the water murky. I knew I had to get to the other side to escape from these grotesque figures, who were pursuing me relentlessly. I took a leap of faith and plunged into the water. The current was powerful, and I felt myself being pulled downstream. But I couldn't give up now. I had to get to the other side. I swam with all my strength, the water rushing past me as I struggled to make headway. My heart was pounding as I swam with all my might. I turned my head and saw them getting into a boat, coming after me with a determination that was terrifying. As I struggled against the current, I wondered who these people could be and what they wanted from me. How did they come into my room, and why were they chasing me? My thoughts were interrupted by the waves, which overflowed me and threatened to drag me down into the depths of the river. Gasping for breath, I clawed my way forward, inch by inch, fighting against the powerful current that threatened to overwhelm me. The motor of the boat grew louder, and I knew that my pursuers were gaining on me. I pushed myself harder than ever before, almost out of breath as I struggled to reach the other side. Part 2. Finally, my feet touched sand, and I sprang forward, turning my head to look at my pursuers. They were almost at the shore, their flashlights scanning the waters in search of me. I ran into a dark forest, my heart racing with fear as I realized I had never been here before. The forest was eerie, with dark columns of trees lining every side. I ran blindly, praying that I wouldn't crash into a tree. I could hear the sound of footsteps behind me, and I knew that my pursuers were still on my trail. Overhead, the moon struggled to break through the rain-laden skies, casting a pale light on the forest floor, which was slippery and treacherous. I fell several times. My face was bruised and my clothes torn, but I didn't stop. The footsteps behind me grew louder, their thuds like iron boots on the forest floor. I ran deeper into the forest, hoping to lose my pursuers in the darkness. But they were there, their footsteps growing louder and more menacing with each passing moment. I didn't know how much longer I could keep running, but I knew that I had to find a way out of this forest before it was too late. Part 3. With a burst of energy, I broke through the forest, the moon casting a ghostly pallor on my path. My heart raced as I sprinted forward, my pursuers hot on my heels. Their flashlights darted wildly as they tried to locate me. I ran as if I were in a chariot. My throat was parched. I yelled, but no sound emerged from my parched lips. Ahead of me, I saw the shape of a man on a bicycle on the horizon. I ran towards him, desperate to catch his attention. The faster I ran towards him, the farther he got away from me, until he pedaled away, leaving me to face my pursuers alone. I kept running, my bare feet were cut and bleeding. I realized the path was sandy. That was when I realized that there was only sand around me. I had run into a desert. Each step felt like a struggle. The sand was dragging me back with every movement. I glanced behind me, and my pursuers had stopped running. They were standing still, their outstretched hands beckoning me to come to them. I seized the opportunity to put as much distance as I could between us. Finally, I collapsed in a heap. With the sun rising in the east, its searing rays scorching my face. My lips were dry and cut, and I felt overwhelmingly thirsty. I opened one eye to see that I was alone in the middle of the desert. A form appeared before me, and I saw my pursuers had transformed into a giant vulture, waiting patiently to devour me. But then, I looked intently. To my horror, I realized that the vulture was my own face, staring back at me. I was my own enemy, and I had driven myself to death. The darkness closed in around me, and I was lost to its embrace.